Bismillah walhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we're continuing on with the essentials of Arabic grammar, an English poem on Arabic grammar that's geared toward beginners. And today we begin with the first chapter on speech and its parts. This text begins with the definitions of some key terms. And these terms are key because they establish the framework and foundation for everything else that will follow throughout the remainder of this text and throughout the science of grammar and morphology as a whole. And the Arabic word that is often translated as definition is the word al-hadd, which refers to a border or boundaries. In other words, we're establishing some definitions or boundaries so that we're on the same page. We know what we're talking about. We're not all over the place. And in every subject that we study, it's very important to understand the terminology that the people of that science or the people of that subject use, especially when it comes to the sciences of the deen, because the word al-kalam or speech linguistically or in day-to-day usage does not have the same definition amongst the grammarians. And it does not have the same definition amongst the people of the science of Aqidah, for example. What's in this first chapter is extremely important for the student of the Arabic language to fully grasp and understand, because as we move forward, everything that we learn is going to go back to what is in this first chapter. So speech is that which benefits the hearts. It's organized and structured in its parts. You ask about the foundation where it starts. It's the ism, the fi'l, and the harf. The ism carries meaning in its essence. It's not connected to the past or the present. The fi'l also carries meaning, this is true, but it's connected to the past and present too. There is no future tense at all, but here's a clue. Obey Allah as He commanded you to do. The harf is that which has no meaning on its own, but it connects the words of meaning in this poem. So speech, al-kalam. And al-kalam, speech, amongst the grammarians is defined as al-lafdhu al-murakkabu al-mufidu bil-wadi, an utterance that is compound, beneficial, and organized in its placement. So everything that I'm saying right now and everything that I've just said is a clear example or clear definition of speech, al-kalam. How so? Because it's an utterance, right? It's compound, meaning that it's made up of multiple words, fragments, or prepositions, right? Coming together to formulate a meaning. You can understand me clearly, I hope, right? Which means it's beneficial and it's organized in its placement. Otherwise, it would be all over the place, and at that point, it probably wouldn't be very beneficial, right? So if I said, for example, the night, masjid, went to I last, be like, what? Right? That's not speech because it is compound, but it's not beneficial and it's not organized in its placement. But if I restructure this sentence and organize the placement of its words, it becomes, I went to the masjid last night, right? Which makes a whole lot more sense. So this is speech, right? An utterance that is compound, beneficial, and organized in its placement. And so I've defined it here as that which benefits the hearts, right? The listener or the one being spoken to, and it being organized and structured in its parts. So this kind of makes it easy to memorize the definition of al-kalam according to the grammarians of the Arabic language. So we can look at speech, al-kalam, like a house or a building. And that's the approach that we're taking here, an approach similar to that of constructing a building. So everything comes together gradually, not all at once. And we don't start building on the second floor or the third floor or the roof even. Right? The most important aspect or component of this building is the foundation. And so that's where we start. Because if the foundation is weak or shaky, it doesn't matter how nice the building looks or how quickly it was built, for example. At that point, the building itself is not going to be of any benefit. And the foundation that speech, al-kalam, in the Arabic language is built upon are these three types of words: the ism, the fi'l, and the harf. So the ism carries meaning in its essence. In other words, they have an intrinsic meaning, and it's not connected to the past or the present. So these words don't have a tense, and in English we refer to this as a noun. So the ism is a noun, and nouns indicate people, places, objects, qualities, and more that we'll take a look at. So for example, people or proper names like Zayd, Zaydun, Khalid, Khalidun, Aisha, Aishatu, or objects like kitab, kitabun, a book, qalam, qalamun, a pen, waraqa, waraqatun, a paper, or places like masjid, masjidun, or al-jami'ah, al-jami'atu, the university. So very simply, this is the ism. The fi'l also carries meaning, this is true, but it's connected to the past and present too. So the fi'l is also a word that carries an intrinsic meaning, right? So when we say they carry an intrinsic meaning, they don't require other words in order to convey meaning, right? So the fi'l also is a word that has an intrinsic meaning, but it is connected to a tense. So in English, we refer to this as a verb. So the fi'l is a verb, and verbs indicate that an action is taking place or that an action has taken place. Like ذهب, he went, or ذهبت, she went. يذهب, he is going, or تذهب, she is going. And later on, we get into the details of these tenses and how to distinguish a masculine word from a feminine word, for example. For now, again, we're just establishing these key definitions so that we can build upon this gradually, and then we'll see how everything fits together, inshallah. Then we see here, there is no future tense at all, but here's a clue. Obey Allah as He commanded you to do. And this is just a clever poetic way of clarifying the fact that there is no future tense in the Arabic language. As you might hear some people use that term kind of loosely, right? There's only the past tense, the present tense, and the command tense, which is why I remind myself here, obey Allah as He commanded you to do. And throughout this text, I include a lot of adab, advice, and even some wisdom that I've picked up from my teachers, because not only was this something that was done with the many rhyming books that we grew up reading, but this is something that's also included in many classical Arabic primers, Mulhatul I'rab, for example, even though it's just a book on Arabic grammar. And so I followed suit. This is just a way to make it easy to remember this aspect of the verb, and also just reminding us to be mindful of our actions at the same time. The harf is that which has no meaning on its own, but it connects the words of meaning in this poem. And in English, we refer to the harf as a preposition, and prepositions connect nouns, adverbs, verbs, etc. to one another, which is why I say that it connects the words of meaning in this poem, right? Such as the word in, fi, or from, min, or to, ila. And someone might say, but in and from, they do have a meaning. And they'd be correct in this sense. But it does not have a meaning in the sense of kalam. And again, this goes back to understanding terminology. Because we said al-kalam is what? An utterance that is compound, beneficial, and organized in its placement. If you ask me, for example, where I put your keys, and I said in, you'd be like, in what? Right? Where? Right? Something has to follow. And that's why I say that they connect the words of meaning in this poem, because they require other words in order to convey the complete sense of al-kalam, of speech. Now, outside of this, just to clarify that point, the harf or preposition falls into two categories. The first is what is called harf mabna. And mabna meaning fixed, and that refers to the letters of the Arabic alphabet, alif, ba, ta, tha, for example. And then there are the harf ma'na. Ma'na meaning meaning. Ma'na meaning meaning. Right? So in short, yes, of course it has a meaning, but it does not carry complete meaning in the sense of al-kalam. Right? So we have the noun, al-ism, we have the verb, al-fi'l, and we have the preposition, al-harf. And these three words are the words that make up the Arabic language, right? So that makes it kind of easy in a sense. There are only three types of words in the Arabic language. And going forward, inshallah, we're going to look at how do we identify these types of words? What role do they play in a sentence? How do I search for these types of words in the dictionary? What is the sentence structure of a nominal sentence, of a verbal sentence? But in order to reach these conclusions, what is in this chapter is essential for us to know. It's very important for us to memorize this and understand this. And inshallah, we'll make what comes next very easy. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi وصحبه وسلم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك السلام عليكم